Longjing is the most famous green tea of China, and after tasting one the other day, I couldn't help but notice that it's similar in flavor to a Japanese tea called Gyokuro. In this episode, we'll be comparing the most prized green tea in China with the most prized green tea in Japan, Gyokuro. We'll take a look at how the two teas are made, how they look, and what they taste like to find the differences and similarities between the two. Let's get brewing. So first, we'll start with Longjing. The name Longjing or Longqing translates to Dragonwell, referring to the so-called Dragon's Well in the West Lake or Shihu area of Zhejiang province. Some believe that in order to be considered Longjing or Dragonwell, it needs to come from West Lake, and others believe it just needs to be produced in Zhejiang province. If you take a look at the leaves of the Longqing, you'll notice right away that they have this long and flat shape to them. This unique shape makes Longjing or Dragonwell tea immediately recognizable, and it's a result of the pan firing process, as the leaves are pressed against the pan. Like most Chinese green teas, Longjing is pan roasted after the leaves have withered, but it has an additional step where the higher pressure and higher heat is applied to the leaves, flattening them against the pan. These light, almost flaky leaves make the Longjing easy to identify, and as you can see, they are really tightly rolled, which makes them similar in some ways to Gyokuro. The name Gyokuro roughly translates to jade dew, which is a reference to the dark green residue produced by the tea leaves during the production process. The reason this tea is so special is because it undergoes a long shading process of 3 weeks before the harvest. During the shading process, the tea is cut off from sunlight, which causes the leaves to produce less bitter catechins and retain more of their sweet and savory theanine, an amino acid that is also responsible for this calm, alert feeling that green teas give you. The tea leaves also produce more chlorophyll to compensate for the lack of sunlight, so Gyokuro has these dark green, almost black leaves. In addition to producing more theanine and chlorophyll, the leaves produce more caffeine as well, making Gyokuro the highest caffeine tea, with more caffeine than a cup of coffee. The result is a super energizing and super sweet cup of green tea that tastes unlike anything else. A lot of work goes into producing this cup because the shading process is a stressful time for the plant, and many are not able to make it. While most farmers resort to pesticides and chemical fertilizers to pull this off, farmers like Mr. Sakamoto are able to grow strong, flavorful tea plants without the use of chemicals, thanks to his unique blend of organic bokashi fertilizer. After trying dozens of organic Gyokuro teas from all around Japan, the best by far are produced by Mr. Sakamoto, and you can find them on our website, Nioteas.com. The one we'll be preparing today is the Gyokuro Sasa Hime, made by blending 3 different tea plant varieties, or cultivars, the Yabukita, Okumidori, and Saimidori. If we take a look at the leaves, they are tightly rolled, but instead of being rolled into flat shapes, they are rolled into needle shapes. While most Japanese green teas like sencha are tightly rolled, Gyokuro takes it a step further, with an additional rolling phase, involving precise machines that brush the tea leaves into these needle shapes. The tea can also be meticulously hand-rolled while the leaves are still pliable, so we can already see many similarities between the two teas. They are both green teas, meaning that they are heated after the harvest to retain the green color and vegetal flavors. The teas also both undergo an additional production phase to produce their unique, tightly rolled leaf shapes. There is a big difference, however, in the color of the leaves, and that has to do with a few factors. First, the Longjing isn't shaded, so it won't have these dark green colored leaves. Also, while Chinese teas are pan-fired, Japanese teas are steamed after the harvest. This steaming process can make leaves take on an even greener color, which you'll know if you've ever steamed spinach. These differences don't make either tea better or worse, they just cause them to take on different forms and flavor profiles. In the end, you'll notice that it all comes down to personal preference. So let's go ahead and brew these teas up. But before we do, if you're enjoying this video so far, it would really mean a lot to us if you could hit the thumbs up and subscribe to our channel to see more videos in the future, where we'll cover all sorts of topics in the world of tea. So for the Longjing, it's recommended to use a temperature of 80 degrees Celsius or 175 degrees Fahrenheit and a brewing time of 1 minute. While that brews, we'll get the Gyokuro started as well. For Gyokuro, it's recommended to use a lower brewing temperature of 60 degrees Celsius or 140 degrees Fahrenheit and a brewing time of 2 minutes. This longer brewing time gives the tightly rolled leaves enough time to expand and release their flavor into the water. After brewing up both of the teas, it's time to compare them. First, in terms of color, you'll notice that the Gyokuro has a pale, more opaque yellowish green hue, and the Longjing is clearer and more yellow. Again, this does not mean anything about the quality of the teas, it just has to do with how they're made. The Longjing has a sweet and slightly savory flavor to it, but it's distinctly more roasted. The pan-firing process used to make Chinese green teas often imparts more warmer and cooked tasting notes onto the tea compared to the Japanese steaming method. There are notes of toasted soybeans, squash, and asparagus in this tea, which is quite unique. Longjing or Dragonwell teas are known for this roasted bean flavor, and this one has it in spades. The feeling of this tea is light and refreshing. The Gyokuro, on the other hand, has a much thicker mouthfeel to it, weighing heavy on the palate. There's a strong sweetness and brothiness coming from this tea. When describing the flavor of a Gyokuro, you often find yourself reaching for words that are normally used to describe hearty foods because it's so rich in amino acids. Here you get a strong, savory flavor, a slight saltiness, and notes of seaweed in the finish. With the second brewing of each tea, we can see how the flavor evolves. We'll just brew the leaves again using the same temperature water. 20 seconds for the Gyokuro green tea and 45 seconds for the Longjing. The second steeping of the Longjing becomes slightly sweeter with a warmer rock candy note coming through. The roast becomes a bit less apparent, but the squash notes become stronger. The tea also picks up some more minerality, which can be felt as a tingling sensation on the palate. The Gyokuro, on the other hand, begins to lean more into these steamed vegetable notes, with more of the seaweed, spinach, and edamame coming through. It was interesting to see these two teas evolve into two unique directions, and I was pretty surprised to see the result of this tasting. Both Gyokuro and Longjing are teas you simply have to try at least once because they're so unique. If you want to try the Gyokuro teas from Mr. Sakamoto, there are 4 great ones on our website. The popular Cha Musume, made from the Yabukita cultivar, the Sasa Hime, made from a blend, the Wakamusha, which is made with the smooth and well-rounded Okamidori cultivar, and finally, the Cha Meijin, made from the light and sweet Saimidori cultivar. Thank you all so much for tuning into this tasting. We'll see you next time.